Most people are ruled by emotions. They get angry when insulted, jealous when outshined, desperate when abandoned. And in those moments, they give away power. But there's another kind of person, one who doesn't flinch, who listens more than they speak, who stays calm while everyone else burns. Machiavelli didn't see emotion as weakness. He saw it as a weapon to conceal, to control, to use. In a world where outrage is currency and attention is war, the one who controls their emotions controls the battlefield. These aren't cold-hearted tactics. They're survival skills, power, wrapped in silence. Here are 5 Machiavellian laws of emotional control, used by CEOs, politicians, warlords, and lovers. Master them, and no one will ever control you again. Before you can command anyone else's emotions, you must conquer your own. This is the first law. Master yourself first. Self-mastery is not about being emotionless. It's about being unreadable. The man who shows nothing reveals nothing. And the less people know about your inner world, the less they can manipulate it. Machiavelli warned rulers to be both lion and fox. Strength must be paired with subtlety. Emotion is natural, but reaction, that's a choice. Think of a modern leader who loses his temper in front of the world. One outburst, one emotional crack, and suddenly, he's not feared. He's exposed, fragile. Now consider a figure like Angela Merkel. Calm, quiet, calculated. No outbursts, no reveals. And yet she held Europe together during one of its most chaotic eras. Emotional neutrality isn't emptiness, it's precision. Even in ancient Rome, Emperor Augustus mastered emotional control. He was provoked constantly by rivals and adversaries, but rarely did he react publicly. His patience and long-term strategic calm helped him outlast enemies and shape an empire. Contrast that with someone who speaks softly, listens intently, and never reveals whether they are angry or amused. That silence becomes power. People project, guess, overthink, and in that fog, you are in control. Practice emotional minimalism. Slow your reactions. Don't rush to speak. Use pauses. Master stillness. The less you respond, the more others reveal. Don't fight emotions. Observe them. Channel them. Your restraint becomes a mirror. Their emotions expose them. Yours remain your weapon. This kind of composure doesn't make you passive. It makes you impenetrable. Because once your emotions are mastered, no one can use them against you. Fear doesn't always arrive with a threat. Sometimes it whispers. This is the second law. Use fear as a frame, not a threat. The most effective power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It's felt, quietly, consistently. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But fear, when misused, becomes rebellion. When used with precision, it becomes obedience. The key? Fear that doesn't provoke resistance. Fear that lives in uncertainty. Think of a mafia boss who never raises his voice. His silence is unnerving. His calm, disarming. No one knows what he's thinking, but everyone assumes consequences. Now go back in time to Vlad the Impaler, a historical master of psychological warfare. He didn't threaten neighboring empires. He sent messages written in forests of impaled enemies. No army was needed. The message was the fear, silent, burned into memory. That's the difference between brute force and Machiavellian framing. The loud are predictable. The silent are dangerous. When people can't read you, they prepare for the worst. That preparation, that fear, is control. Compare that to a manager who screams and threatens. Eventually, people tune out. Fear used openly becomes background noise. But fear used strategically, that becomes atmosphere. Even the Roman general Sulla used this principle. When he marched on Rome, he didn't rant, he didn't bargain. He simply arrived, silent, composed, deadly. His very presence was a warning, no threats needed. But fear isn't about cruelty, it's about clarity. The fear you want to generate isn't panic, it's presence. People should feel that your approval is valuable, and your disappointment dangerous. Never confirm what you might do. Leave enough mystery that others hesitate before crossing you. Set the frame early. Be unpredictable. Say less than people want to hear. Never reveal the full consequence. Let the imagination do the work. Fear thrives in silence, in uncertainty, in delayed response. And always remember, the most terrifying moment isn't the storm, it's the silence before it. Love is one of the most powerful emotional currencies, and one of the most dangerous if used without intention. This is the third law. Give love strategically, then withhold it. When love, praise, or validation becomes predictable, it loses its power. But when it's given sparingly and pulled away suddenly, it creates emotional hunger. Machiavelli believed a wise ruler should give rewards seldom and unexpectedly, because the surprise magnifies their effect. In modern relationships, this is known as intermittent reinforcement. The psychological loop it creates is addictive. It's the same tactic slot machines use. You don't win every time, but just often enough that you keep pulling the lever. Think of the boss who rarely compliments, but when he does, you remember it for weeks, or the partner who showers you with affection, then grows cold for a few days. You begin questioning yourself. You try harder. You seek their approval, not because it's freely given, but because it's scarce. This isn't about cruelty. It's about impact. Overgiving dulls your value, but scarcity sharpens it. Reward strategically. Validate when it advances your goal. Praise when it reinforces desired behavior. Then, disengage. Let the silence grow. Let them feel the absence. The emotional vacuum will do more than words ever could. Look at Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. He was known to embrace his soldiers before battle, speak their names, and share in their struggle. But after victory, he became distant, enigmatic. His calculated warmth created fierce loyalty, but his withdrawal made them crave his approval. They fought not just for France, but for him. That emotional push-pull made him unforgettable, even when he gave very little. The takeaway: emotional overexposure makes you ordinary. Emotional scarcity makes you powerful. You don't need to be heartless, but you do need to be rare. In a world of constant validation, be the exception. When your attention becomes a reward, not a default, people will chase it, and they won't even know why. Not all chains are visible. Some are made of emotion, and guilt is the strongest among them. This is the fourth law. Guilt is a silent chain. People think guilt is something you give. But the most powerful guilt is the kind someone creates in their own mind, without you ever saying a word. Machiavelli understood that control isn't always about domination. It's about direction. If you can shape someone's perception of themselves, they will chain themselves to you out of emotional debt. When someone believes they've disappointed you, not because you said it, but because they felt it, they will work twice as hard to regain your approval. That's not force, that's leverage. Don't accuse, don't argue. Withdraw, look away, say less. Allow silence to do what shouting never could. Think of a mentor who once believed in you, then suddenly grows cold. No insults, just disappointment in their eyes. It haunts you. You rehearse explanations in your mind. You chase closure. That invisible pressure, that's guilt. And it drives behavior deeper than fear or even love. This same pattern shows up in family dynamics. A parent doesn't yell. They just say, "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed." The child, craving connection, spirals internally, begging for a repair. Guilt does the work, and the chain tightens. The most dangerous control doesn't come from chains you can see. It comes from chains you put on yourself. And the master doesn't lift a finger because you tighten the cuffs. Now, scale it up. In politics, leaders use virtue framing to make opponents feel morally flawed. In relationships, emotionally intelligent manipulators offer quiet withdrawal instead of confrontation. In social movements, moral guilt is broadcast like a virus, subtle, ambient, impossible to respond to directly, and yet incredibly effective. Take Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic ruler of Rome. He rarely punished his subordinates publicly. When generals failed or betrayed his trust, he didn't lash out. He simply distanced himself. His disappointment wasn't theatrical. It was internalized, subtle, but devastating. Those around him, aware of his discipline and integrity, felt the weight of having let him down. Many went to great lengths to regain his silent respect. Not because they were forced, but because they couldn't bear the quiet loss of his esteem. His power didn't come from fear. It came from the guilt others imposed on themselves in his presence. The ultimate power in guilt is this: it feels self-inflicted. But it's not. It was engineered by someone who knew when to stay silent. If you want someone to obey without resistance, make them feel like it's their idea to return. And nothing pulls harder than the silent chain of guilt. Emotion feels like truth, but strategy builds reality. This is the fifth law: strategy over emotion, always. In moments of high emotion, people think they're being authentic, but what they're often doing is surrendering, reacting, exposing themselves, and giving away the power to someone else. Machiavelli understood this danger. He wrote, "How we live is so far removed from how we ought to live, that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation." In other words, stop chasing idealism. Choose what works. The world doesn't reward emotional truth. It rewards emotional control. That doesn't mean repress your feelings. It means don't be led by them. A general who wages war out of anger loses sight of the battlefield. A CEO who makes decisions to be liked weakens the company. A partner who reacts emotionally to every trigger becomes predictable and controllable. Separate your internal emotion from your external behavior. Feel the storm, but don't show it. Make decisions based on outcome, not outrage. When in conflict, pause. When insulted, observe. When tempted to lash out, ask, will this serve me a week from now? A year from now? Because emotion makes you reactive. Strategy makes you timeless. Look at Abraham Lincoln. During the American Civil War, he received countless attacks, personal, political, emotional, but rarely did he react in kind. Instead, he wrote what he called hot letters, furious responses he never sent. He chose timing over venting, strategy over ego, and because of it, he preserved a nation that was tearing itself apart. You don't win by feeling deeply. You win by acting wisely. Even in high-stakes environments, wars, negotiations, betrayals, the person who pauses sees more. Emotional urgency narrows your field of vision, but calm expands it. The world will try to drag you into its chaos. It will bait you with outrage, seduce you with sentiment, provoke you to act on impulse. But when you remain still, when you respond with precision, not emotion, you become untouchable. The storm moves, but you don't. Emotion is the fire. Strategy is the hand that controls it. Most people think emotion makes them real, but in truth, it makes them predictable. And predictable people get played. The 5 laws you've just learned aren't just about staying calm. They're about becoming dangerous in silence. They're about never flinching, while others unravel. If you've watched this far, you already know something most people don't. Power doesn't belong to the loud. It belongs to the unshaken. But here's the deeper truth. Emotional control is only the beginning. The real players, the ones who control outcomes, alliances, entire nations, they don't just control feelings. They control perception. They use deception as strategy. Not lies for cruelty, but lies for control. In the next chapter, I'll reveal the 5 laws of deception, the exact tactics Machiavelli used to manipulate kings, rivals, and allies alike, without ever lifting a sword. If you don't know these laws, they'll be used on you. So subscribe now. Turn the bell on, because the people who wait get manipulated. And share this with someone who needs emotional armor. Remember, the world doesn't reward truth. It rewards control. And those who master both write the rules for everyone else.